Good morning to everybody. I'm Coin 6 morning meteorologist Sally Showman. I've already been at work for several hours, was up at 2 this morning, on from 4:30 to 6:30 doing the weather. So maybe you know me from my work doing the weather, but maybe you know me because I'm so passionate about organ and tissue donation. I've told so many stories since I got here to Portland 4 years ago, and I'd like to thank everyone who's allowed me into your homes and your hearts. The 3 Portland police officers who have received livers. There's a mother who allowed me to be there as she heard her son's heartbeat for the first time after he passed away. And I can't tell you what a profound impact it's had on me, and I know it's had the very same impact on so many of you and so many viewers out there. So I'm truly honored to be here as your MC again. You know, that video really reminds us why we gather here each year: to support programs that educate and inspire, to celebrate the amazing gifts of organ, eye, and tissue donation, and to bring hope to Alicia and thousands of others who are waiting. Barbara Thompson is someone who knows that education, inspiration, and family conversations can later make all the difference in the midst of a tragedy. Barb is currently the chair of Donate Life Northwest's Board of Directors, and she's the clinical and hospital service manager at Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank. Please join me in thanking Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank for the important work they do with families in their darkest hours and for serving as today's presenting sponsors. Thank you, Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank, and welcome Barb Thompson.
Good morning. Thank you, Sally. We're so grateful for your commitment over the years to special reporting on donors and recipients, and for your presence hosting the Lifesavers breakfast. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome all of you here this morning as we celebrate our community dedicated to organ, eye, and tissue donation. As many of you know, this is the beginning of my 2nd year as the board chair and the beginning of my 3rd decade as a professional in the field of organ donation. Much has changed during those years as the field of transplantation has become more sophisticated and refined and outcomes greatly improved. But what hasn't changed in all those years is that it all starts with a magnanimous gift, very often from a stranger to a stranger. From those who believe that the end of their life could be the beginning of another's life. That profound synchronistic link is triggered by this small yet powerful act of saying yes to organ donation. At the Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank, our staff of professionals work 24/7 to ensure that the family of every potential organ donor in our geographical area of 112,000 square miles is supported in their time of loss and offered the unique opportunity for their loved one to leave a remarkable legacy. For those of you in the audience who may be waiting for a transplant, the dedication of our team to this mission should bring you comfort and reassurance. You have the best of the best working tirelessly on your behalf. Thank you, PNTB. We're grateful for you. But our work in the hospital with these families starts with and depends upon the good work of Donate Life Northwest, whose programs are vital to the education of the public before tragedy occurs. When I first heard our guest speaker this morning, Mark Williams, address a gathering at a transplant picnic, I so hoped that when he was ready, he would speak to you here at a Lifesavers breakfast, so that all of you who give so generously through your financial contributions and volunteering to Donate Life Northwest could see why it is that you give, to save lives, lives like Mark Williams's, vibrant and grateful lives. Donate Life Northwest is led by a dynamic, committed board of directors who support the groundbreaking work of the dedicated staff. Leslie Brock, the Executive Director, will tell you about their fantastic programs and exciting new initiatives that the organization is creating. Donate Life Northwest is positioned to expand their programs and their presence, and that translates into lives saved. For your support in these endeavors, we are grateful. Thank you, and please join me in welcoming Leslie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here so early in the morning. I know it's early. Thank you. I am so grateful to be here with all of you today, working to save lives and improve health with this amazingly inspiring Donate Life Northwest community. I want to start off by thanking today's very generous sponsors, so please join me in once again thanking our presenting sponsor, Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank. And let's also thank our platinum sponsor, Legacy Transplant Services. And our premier sponsor, OHSU Clinical Transplant Services. We would also like to thank DHX Advertising, Stevens Integrated Solutions, Community Tissue Services, Genentech, the Oregon Convention Center, and Pacific Wild Catering. Thank you all so much for your support. We couldn't do it without you. Now, I'd like to take a moment to think about this quote from theologian and philosopher Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. So what are you grateful for? That is a question that many of us will be considering around the Thanksgiving table in a couple of weeks. Hard to believe it's only a couple of weeks away. Many of your kids, my own included, might say that they're thankful for Minecraft. But most of us in the Donate Life Northwest community would say one thing, that we are grateful for life. Our experiences are different and unique, but all of us have been taught in profound ways how precious life is. We're grateful for the life saved by a generous organ donor, grateful to see the lives around us through gifts of corneas. We're grateful to move and to walk through life thanks to tissue donors. We're grateful for the opportunity to save a life by being a living donor, or grateful to have found a little solace in the midst of tragic loss through our loved ones' gifts of life. For myself, the staff, and the hundreds of volunteers doing the amazingly important work of Donate Life Northwest, we are also grateful for all of the amazing stories and of transplant and donation that inspire us and give us a sense of urgency to our work every day. I'd like to now take a moment to recognize some of you and your uniquely inspiring stories. I'm going to ask some of you to stand, but please hold your applause until the end. So please stand up and stay standing if you're the recipient of a cornea or tissue donation. If you're the recipient of an organ donation, please stand up. Now, family members and friends of deceased donors, please stand and stay standing. Living donors, please stand up. And is anyone here today waiting for a transplant? I know that there are so many that are too ill to be with us today, so thank you for being here. Now, how about all the professionals that are connected to transplant and donation, including our hospital partners, DMV staff, and teachers? Now, everyone that has a D or a heart on your driver's license that signifies your wish to become a donor, please stand. So now take a look around this room. I hope that you're all as grateful as I am and the staff at Donate Life Northwest to be a part of this amazing and inspiring community. So please give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Now, I'd like to share some of the ways that we are putting that grateful energy to work. We have so many exciting programs and projects that our staff has put together a little video to give you an overview of those important projects that you support. So please enjoy. Wasn't that great? We have such a creative and dedicated staff working at Donate Life Northwest. They really do such an amazing job. I'm so thrilled to be able to work with them every day. I just want to highlight and brag a little bit about some of those programs that you just saw. And first, I want to tell you about our school programs. You have helped create our pioneering high school curriculum with tools for teachers to weave donation into the classroom. Many teachers in our area have already put it to use, and we recently reached out to some 1,500 more health and science teachers across the Pacific Northwest to let them know about this valuable resource. We are so proud to announce today that the curriculum has just won Donate Life America's prestigious Pinnacle Award. It's now being shared as a best practice across the country, and we just found out this past week that it's being used in all the high schools in South Carolina. That is really cool. We're really excited. So you've also helped us to recruit and train more volunteer ambassadors this year to inspire teachers and students with personal stories and important facts. With funds raised today, you can share teaching tools with thousands more teachers and recruit and train volunteers in more communities in the coming year. Our goal is to reach every teen so that when they're ready to register and excited to share what they learn with their families. And when those teens go to the DMV for the very first time and get their very first driver's license, they're going to be asked that important question: do you want to register to be a donor? Your support has helped us to travel, to share updates and the inspiration of your stories with partners in all of our DMV offices, where their staff has posed the direct question of donation to millions of Oregonians. Some of those staff are here today, and I just want to personally thank you for the work that you do to help us to register so many people. I believe they're over here in this corner, so thank you so much. Now, next, I'm especially excited to tell you about our invigorated multicultural outreach programs. We've all seen the uniting powers of the gifts of life, sight, and health, bringing together donor and recipient families across political, religious, and cultural divides. But health education disparities, language obstacles, and cultural differences often create barriers to donation. To overcome these barriers, we recently forged new partnerships with organizations that provide social services and health education to immigrant communities and underserved populations. We're learning from these new partners and the people that they serve, and they've already helped us connect some 5,000 people with culturally and linguistically appropriate education. With your support, we are committed to expanding outreach to more communities in more languages with an ever more inclusive Donate Life Northwest community. Another way that we're working to go beyond our better-than-average registration rates is through our Erase the Wait Living Kidney Donation Initiative. 80% of the people on the waiting list today are waiting for a kidney, and that number is growing rapidly. So, we're spotlighting the kidney health crisis in school programs and in multicultural community outreach, sharing facts about the donor registry and the often misunderstood details of living kidney donation. Just to give you an idea of what a little extra education can make, 3 of our amazing volunteers are people who decided to give their kidneys to complete strangers after they learned 2 important facts: that there's a terrible need and that you do not need to be a blood relative to donate. Dialysis patients' own understanding of living donation can often be incomplete, and sharing their story and expressing their need for a kidney donor can be a daunting prospect, as you can imagine. That's why we launched a new peer mentor program for patients with trainings and workshops developed with our hospital partners. We're learning a lot from these first participants, and today's contributions will help expand this program to save even more lives. So those are just a few of our key initiatives, but our volunteers are also promoting organ, eye, and tissue donation at countless community events and through our own fun events and projects. Many of you, just last week, helped teach people that donation is not scary with our Halloween door hangers. And dozens of you are dispelling misperceptions about your faith's teachings on donation during this month's Donor Sabbath events. We hope that you'll design a square for our 18th Threads of Life quilt, and come have fun with everyone in your community at our second annual Tabor Trot next May. As Donate Life Northwest supporters, we have so much to celebrate, and you should be proud to have helped register more than 2.3 million donors, almost 75% of Oregonians and Washingtonians. This is a tremendous accomplishment that saves lives and improves health every day. At the same time, we have to remember that there's still a great shortage of donors. And today alone, 30 people will lose their battles after waiting on the waiting list too long. So as you listen to our keynote speaker and think about what you are grateful for, I hope that you will join him in channeling your gratitude toward the urgent need to build greater understanding and appreciation for donation. Thank you. Sally? Will Sally come up and introduce our keynote speaker today? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. That was a great update on the accomplishments and challenges of the Donate Life Northwest community. Now I'm honored to introduce someone who has truly channeled his gratitude, doing his part to pay it forward. In the just 20 months since his liver transplant, Mark Williams has already inspired thousands of people with his enthusiasm and dedication to carrying on his donor's legacy of giving, and he's about to inspire hundreds more right here today. He's a devoted husband to Elizabeth and loving father to Ashley, Shayla, and Marshana. The city of Portland is so lucky to have Mark at the Bureau of Transportation as the private for-hire transportation program manager. And we are so fortunate to have him as a dedicated volunteer. I want to let Mark tell you about his earlier career, but let me just say we are so grateful that his incredible journey brought him and his vibrant energy back here to the convention center to share his enthusiasm with you. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Mark Williams.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me out there? Is this thing on? So I have to tell you how grateful I am to be alive today. It's just as an opportunity of a lifetime to be out in front of you. I've waited for this moment for a very long time, and as I sit over there at the table next to my boss, who probably thinks he's kind of a crybaby because I'm fighting back to tears, this is an opportunity for me that I've been really looking forward to. So thank you for being here this morning with me. As Sally alluded to you, as I have a recent connection here at the Convention Center. I worked in this facility for 20 years. In fact, I think I set that table right there. And over there, table 17, you in that chair, I've set that chair right there. I've built this stage. And many times I've been at the back of this room while they prepared this set the night before. But I never, ever thought in a million years I'd be right up here today sharing my story. So thank you for being here. So my story goes back a long time ago. I was living a normal, happy life. I had a family. We celebrated Christmas and holidays. I beat my kids. Just living a normal, happy life. And one day, I'm looking in the mirror, and I saw some yellowing. I was jaundiced. And I didn't feel bad. I felt good, but I just saw some yellowing in the eyes. So I get to the hospital, and I have to make an appointment, and I see a specialist, and I finally get in to see the doctor, and the doctor tells me, he says, you know what, I've seen something like this before. I suspect one day you may need a liver transplant. But I felt good, so I really didn't think much of it. And 5 years would go by. That jaundice went away. It went away after about 6 weeks. 5 years go by. I'm in the mirror, and guess what? I see it again. I begin to see the yellowing in my eyes. The jaundice was back. But this time I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So we get in, we go to the doctor, we make these appointments, they run a series of tests. And eventually leads to a liver biopsy. And after the biopsy results come in, my wife and I schedule an appointment, and we get in, we see the doctor, and she sits us down, and she begins to read all this information off her computer screen, information that I really didn't understand. But I heard a couple of key words in there, and that is, if I didn't get a liver transplant, there was a good possibility that I would not be alive after a while. And so, as you can imagine, you're sitting there in the hospital, and they give you that news. I kind of look like this guy up here. I looked at my wife, and I was like, what did she just say? I was shocked, and immediately your life starts to flash before your eyes. Can you imagine getting some news like that maybe you wouldn't be able to survive without a liver? And everything just started to flash before my eyes. What would my kids do without their father? What would my mother do? She just lost a son a year prior. What would my wife do? She might marry that guy named Steve. So I did everything that any normal person would do. You get some bad news like that, you decide, you know what? A good friend of mine is sitting over there at the table. She says, you know what? You're responsible for your own health. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to educate myself. So I went home and I enrolled into Google University. I bet you didn't know you could get a medical degree at Google University. What takes a doctor 12 years and $280,000 to achieve, I did for free in 12 hours. Everything I needed to know. So as time went on, my health continued to depreciate. I lost a total of 70 pounds. I was a 240-pound kind of a. This was not there. This is natural disaster storage. This is all that is. Okay. I'm waiting for the big quake, then this will go away. So it was February before my transplant, and I had to renew my driver's license. So I go into the DMV, and this is the driver's license that they took that day. And I remember as I stood up there to fill out all the paperwork and pay the fee, I remember the lady at the DMV, she looked at me and she said, "Are you all right?" And that's probably not what you expect from a person at the DMV. I wanted to say, "Do I look all right?" But I could tell she meant it sincerely because I could see the water gloss over her eyes. She was concerned for me. And so I took a picture, and still to this day, I carry this driver's license. I don't sign my credit cards because I haven't found a pin that actually works on the back of one of those things. So they always check my ID, and that's not, yes, me. That was a long time ago. So frequent visits to the hospital. My health continued to go up and down. Sometimes things got worse, and one day, something very bad happened. I remember my wife was sitting in the living room. She was on the phone, and a really bad stomach ache. And so I was kind of swollen, and I was sick and in pain, and I kind of walked over to the bathroom, and I vomited. But the only thing that came up was blood, and I knew I was in serious trouble. So I went to my wife, and I said, "We got to go to the hospital." So we jump in the car. We're on our way to the hospital. And we pull up in front of the emergency room at OHSU. She lets me out the car. We go in together. She checks me in. Things were getting very hazy to me that day. I could feel my life. It was fading away from me right there. I didn't want to tell my wife because she would have panicked. I didn't want to call my mom. She would have freaked out. I just wanted to get the help that I needed. So as I sat there in the emergency room, in the lobby, I thought, my time is running out because I was starting to lose the motor functions in my hands, and I started to haze over, or the vision was going away. So I picked up my cell phone. I thought maybe I should call my wife and tell her, hurry up. But I couldn't even control my fingers. And finally I heard this voice. Someone opened the door and said, "Mr. Williams, come on back." And I looked up at this young man. He looked like he was 23 years old. And I said, I don't think I can make it to you. He grabs a wheelchair and he comes over to me. Gets me in the wheelchair, he rolls me back in that triage room, he puts the blood pressure cup on me, and he knew something was terribly wrong. And then let me tell you, this kid, to look maybe 23 years old. This guy went into action. He did something with the phone, 36044475534. And he started asking me a bunch of silly questions. Hey, what's your name? What's your birth date? How many kids? What's your favorite color? Stay with me, Mark. As he started to put IVs into my hand, getting me prepared for what was next. Before you know it, 2 or 3 other people came along. They rushed me in the back, and they hooked me up to life-saving fluids. And as they were putting these fluids into me, I could feel the life. It was coming back. I could feel myself. I was becoming more alert as they pumped me back full of blood and other fluids. And I remember a doctor standing at the door. Now, this guy didn't look 23. He actually had some gray hair. And I was like, finally, somebody with some experience around here. He says, you're in very serious condition. We're going to do everything that we can for you. We're doing our best. Hang in there. He turned around and walked away and left me with the kids. But I got to tell you, those guys performed that day. If you ever watched any shows like ER, Emergency Room, those guys at OHSU, I don't care if they were 12, 16, or 20, they performed. And I applaud them. So a few days later, I was able to go home. And I did something really stupid. I'm not going to tell you what I did, but I developed this infection in my leg. And I'm already swollen, and I'm already in pain, and my feet hurt. You ever see The Hobbit? You've seen The Hobbit, haven't you? You see his feet? That's how my feet used to look. Yeah, big. Okay. I was in pain. I was still jaundiced, and I remember I had this infection in my leg, and it hurt. It hurt so bad. And I've never had pain in my leg so bad, anywhere so bad. And I'm a grown man. And, us guys, we're kind of macho. They'll never see me cry. I cried. I was in so much pain. It hurt so badly that I cried. And the itching. I would have the girls come over, hey, scratch my back, and they would, Dad, I don't have any nails. What girl doesn't have nails? Scratch. It itches, it itches. And she's like, we're doing it. I said, well, go get a fork. Do something. Scratch my back. Uncontrollable itching. And then I would get these cramps, because when your liver's going, your entire body chemistry just goes away, right? Your liver's going, things just are out of balance. And so I would get these cramps. I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but I'd get a cramp in my foot. And I would reach down to try to, and then I'd get it in my hand. And then I'd get it in this hand. And then it was this hand. And I had cramps everywhere. And my kids would run over and help me. And everybody was massaging a muscle. And the cramps were so painful. But my kids are right there. And I'll tell you, even though I was in a lot of pain, it was probably a very small price to pay compared to the price that someone else would pay later. And what hurt me even more was to look in the face of my children and see the pain as they watched their dad suffer. So for several months, I was in and out of the hospital. And one day I went in for a procedure, and the doctor says, hey, we're going to keep you here. You're not going home. And I thought, well, okay, but how long? You're not going home till you get a liver. Then I knew it was very, very serious. I wasn't going to go home. And so they admitted me into the hospital. And I knew I was in bad shape. Get my own room. That was kind of nice to get your own room. I was there for a long time, for 30 days. And the doctors, they want you to, when you're getting prepared for surgery, they always say, keep moving, right? Keep moving, keep walking, keep moving. And I would get up every day and I would, get out there and walk, and my friends would come and walk with me, my family would come and walk with me, and it hurt. But I thought, if I get an opportunity to get a liver, I need to be ready, right? I would walk by this guy's room every day, and I would look in there. And just, you don't want to be nosy, but you kind of, when you see what other people are doing. And there was this guy in his room, and he looked like he was in really bad shape. I was in bad shape, but this guy was in bad shape. Here's a lesson to each and every one of you in this room. No matter what you're going through, somebody has it worse than you. Never forget that. So 30 days would go by. I'm still in the hospital. And I would look for an ambulance every day when I heard one going down the street. Because we were right over there at the emergency room. Dornbecker's there. I'd hear the Life Flight helicopter. And I would always run to the window and just listen and hope. Maybe this is the day. Maybe this day I'm going to get a life-saving organ. And this breaks my heart because I'm sad to say this, but I'm going to tell you, when you're in that state and you're fighting for your life, you're hoping that something happens, a tragedy, pile up on I-5, because you know that if there's an accident, there might be hope for you. And that's a sick feeling. I'll tell you, it's a very sick feeling. So one day I'm in the hospital and my wife is there, and, you know, it's day 30 maybe, day 29. It was a really bad day for me. Woke up that morning, I was sick, I knew there was something wrong. And I began to shake, and I told my wife, you know, something's going on. She said, should I call somebody? I said, no, if you do, they're going to take me off the list. But it got so bad that they had to call a nurse, and I began to dry heave, and then I knew it. I must have burst another vessel, because I could feel it inside. I could feel that my vision was getting hazy, and my motor skills were going, and I called the nurse, and I said, listen, you got to get me downstairs. She said, why? I said, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding inside. She says, well, what makes you think you're bleeding? I said, really, this is not my first rodeo. You need to start ordering blood. You need to get me downstairs. I'm bleeding inside. She put the blood pressure cuff on me. For some reason, that must be the magic device. Because the minute she put that on me, she was like, 3, 4, 6, 7, 4, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1. And we were on our way. We get downstairs, and they're getting blood. And I looked over at my daughter, and she was holding my hand, and I said, Ashley? She's sitting right where are you, honey? There she is, sweetie, I love you. I said, are you sure you want to be here for this? And she says, yeah, Dad. I said, it's not going to be pretty. And I remember I was going in and out of consciousness, and I heard someone say, what should we do when he codes? Or if he codes? And I remember a voice saying, resuscitate him. And that's all I remember. And you know what? That advance directive, I don't care. I wrote on there, keep me alive even if you have to connect me to a John Deere tractor. I want to live. I wake up a couple of days later, day and a half later, I think it's Tuesday. My wife says, no, it's Thursday, you've been out. I was weak, and I knew. I could feel it. Something in your body tells you, hey, you know what? You're done. And then I found out that they had actually taken me off the list because if a liver would become available, I wouldn't be able to survive the surgery. And then I was heartbroken to learn that a liver did show up while I was unconscious, and it went to someone else. And all I could hope is that maybe that guy, I walked by his room, it looked really bad, maybe he got it. We don't know. But I thought, okay, this is it. And you get to a point along the way that, you know what, you just have to accept it. You get to a point where I think God just says, you know what, get it off your mind, I got this. Because for some reason, I was at peace. A day or so later, I get a knock at the door. These doctors come into my room. And they say, you know, how are you feeling? How do you think? Well, we've been talking, and we think that you've got a fighting chance if we can just get you a liver, so we're going to put you back on the list. And my eyes filled with tears that I would get back on the list and I would get a chance. But what are the chances, after waiting for a full year, what are the chances of a liver showing up for me in the amount of time that I had left? What are the chances? It would take a miracle. About a couple of days later, I'm sitting on my bed. It's early in the morning. Nurse walks in. She says, hey, phone call. Did you get your phone call? And I said, no. Picked up my cell phone. I didn't see a call there. She says, oh, yeah, you got a phone call. Let me transfer it in for you. She goes in. She gets the phone to her reception area. She transfers a phone call. And on the other line, it says, Mark, we've got the perfect liver for you. She says, this liver is a perfect match. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And I just cried, and she cried. And we cried on the phone together. And I said, what do you want me to do? She said, just don't eat breakfast. You're going to surgery tonight. Okay, I won't eat. I promise I won't eat. So she hangs up the phone. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed. I got to call somebody, but I didn't know what I would say to my wife when I call her. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what to say. So I just sat there. Then the doctor comes in, and he sits down, and he says, Mark, did you get your call? I said, yes. He says, you're going to surgery tonight. Don't eat. Yeah, I know, I'm not supposed to eat. We've got the perfect liver for you. And I tell you, if I could record them both, they both said the exact same thing. And I thought to myself, Do they know this person? How did they know that this liver would be so perfect? How would they know? So later on that night, I get to go down to surgery. And they rolled me into the operating room, and they lay you on this thing. It looks like a tray. It's like a surfboard, but it's metal. You ever seen one of those? It's not really a bed. They put you there, and they're in the room, and they're prepping. And there's about 5 or 6 people in there running around. And, this is it. And I thought to myself, it hit me. Someone lost their life. And because they did, I'm going to get an opportunity to live. And if I could just get through this surgery, I would find those people and thank them for that precious gift. I would find the family of that individual. Next thing you know, these guys gather around me, all these surgeons gather around, and they say to me, Mark, we're going to be right with you every step of the way. We're going to be standing here by your side for 8.5 hours or more. We're going to get you through this. Are you ready? How could you not be ready for that? I felt like I was in perfect hands. 1 minute I was out. It seemed like 3 minutes later I was back up. And I remember being rolled down the hall. And I remember seeing my wife through a window. And I was still, pretty groggy from all the medication. And I gave her the thumbs up. I had survived. I had survived that surgery. A good friend of mine said to me one day, he says, man, you're the luckiest dude on the planet. Anybody ever feel that lucky? Like you're just that lucky? I said, no, man, I don't feel that lucky. I feel like I've been blessed. I feel like I've been blessed by an angel. And to her, she is my angel hero. She saved my life. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure, and I am so grateful, and I hope I don't cry up here, to introduce to you my angel hero, Melissa Cranston-Thorne. Thank you.
That's my daughter, Melissa.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce you to Melissa's mother, Cheryl Flanders.
We speak about gratitude, and I have to say this is a very grateful moment for me. I'm so grateful to be able to stand here next to this man. He's become a great friend and a part of our family. It's also very, very honoring for me to be able to tell you a little bit about my angel hero as well, Melissa Cranston-Thorne. When Melissa was a little girl, I would say she was a toddler, actually, her dad and I gave her the name of Boogie. Now, Boogie was a name that was very appropriate because she was a crib dancer. And if anybody remembers the music of the late 70s, there was a song called Get Down Boogie Oogie Oogie. And when that song came on, the girl rocked the crib. And so we just began to call her Boogie, and that kind of took. And over the years, it kind of got shortened to the Boog. And so over the years, we were always, even as in her adult years, we called her the Boog. One of the last things that I whispered in her ear when she was here with us was, "I love you, Boog." And that vivacious girl that was a knockout in the crib grew up to be just as vivacious when she was growing up. She was full of joy. She was a light that entered the room. She was animated. And she had the most incredible loud laugh. And actually, we were called the Loud Family because we were loud, and her laugh fit right in. And so it was kind of one of those childhoods where we just enjoyed her so much. She was just an absolute delight, stubborn a little bit, unlike her mother, but very, very delightful. And she was also a typical teenager. When she was about in the 5th grade, though, she had her first asthma attack. And so asthma was a little bit of a living part of her life. It was under control. She didn't let it stop her. She was very, very big in sports. She was very, very much interested in living life to the fullest. But the asthma was always just a little bit there. And as she, grew into her teenage years, she was very typical, where, things like potato chips were like a food group. And she loved potato chips.
And I can tell you, folks, I love potato chips now, too. It's real. I don't know what they call it, but it's real.
Yes, every time Mark comes over, we always make sure we have a bag of barbecue potato chips for Mark.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Elizabeth is thrilled about that, but we do provide. And it's been really something that's been a point of fun for us to realize that Melissa's influence has carried over in that way.
The natural disaster food supply.
Well, Melissa, when she was 16, she did what most young kids do. She was very excited to get her driver's license. And so when she went to the DMV to get her driver's license, she did fill out that little box where you check to be an organ donor. She never said anything to me. I didn't know about it, but it certainly didn't surprise me. Because Melissa was a compassionate, full of service kind of girl. She always wanted to give back, and that was her goal, was to give back. She gave back to her family. If you were sick, you could count on Melissa stopping by with a little goodie bag. She'd leave it on the porch, but she didn't, but she was, she would leave you something. If you were sad. And there were many times when I had that opportunity to have her bring to me a Starbucks latte. And she would call me up and she would say, "Mom, I'm coming over with a latte. You better be dressed." And I was like, okay. And she was just that kind of girl. She always wanted to give back. She always wanted to just do little surprises for people. And she was a delightful soul and spirit. Her family and friends were her life until her son came along. And when Melissa's son, Ian, came into her life, she became radical mom. She had a lot to deal with in the early days of Ian's life because he was born with a birth defect, cleft lip and palate. He's had 7 surgeries in his 12 years of life, and Melissa was there for each one. And when the family gathered in the surgical waiting room as he was getting ready to go into a surgery, she would hand her son to the surgical nurse, and she would give that nurse the look of radical mom. Like, if you've got children, It's like, I'm trusting you with this prize and with this treasure. You better do okay. And then the doors would close and she'd come over to me and she'd fall into my arms and she would cry. She was dedicated 100% to that little boy. In February of 2014, Melissa, you probably remember because you saw the slide that Mark showed of the snow on the ground when he was at OHSU. That was the year of the big snowstorm that we had, and Melissa loves snow. And she spent a lot of time with her friends playing in snow. And so this was like a delight to her to be able to go and with her friends, Jenna, and go and have some fun out in the snow. It was a very cold day out in the snow. So they played and they enjoyed the snow and they came in and they sat in the warmth of the home and there's a photo of them drinking some coffee at the table and they were just having a good time. And Melissa had an acute asthma attack. For any of you that have ever had asthma, you'll know that the cold suddenly can precipitate that. So Melissa had an acute asthma attack. It was one of those really difficult moments where she couldn't catch her breath. She collapsed and went into cardiac arrest. At that point in time, she went into a coma, and she was in a coma for 5 days at intensive care. On Valentine's Day, 2014, Melissa passed this earth. And some of you out there, I know you have lost a child. I know that. And I want to talk to you for just a moment and say, I know that in that moment of the unthinkable tragedy of your loss, you had to make a decision about organ donation. I honor you for that moment in time. I'm not 100% sure I would have the strength or the courage to do the same thing in that moment. I didn't have to. Melissa did it for me 20 years earlier. But one thing I do know, Melissa's family, we are so proud. So proud of our girl. She gave sight to 2 people. And she saved 4 lives. One of them, this man here.
And I'm so happy to be a part of this family. And I couldn't ask for anything better to come out of a situation like this. When I first wrote a letter to the family, I didn't know how they would receive it. I just wanted to be a part of their life somehow. And these guys have accepted me into a part of their family. And I am so grateful for that. And I enjoy every moment I get to spend with them.
In fact, I remember, Mark, when we first met, actually, and it was after that beautiful letter that you sent me. It was such a profound moment for me to receive that letter from Mark about 3 months after Melissa had left. And it was that moment when we do connect. It was just like in the video, I think there was somebody speaking to that. It was like that moment when suddenly everything comes together and you desperately want to meet the person that's carrying the life of your child. And he wrote me a beautiful letter, and I couldn't ever, I of course will save it forever, and it was amazing. And about 3 months after we received that letter, and we did some talking back and forth on email, I believe, we arranged a visit at our home. And it was on Memorial Day. So it was a very fitting day for that. And I remember Mark came with his wife and beautiful family, his daughters, and they were all standing on our porch. And I opened up the door, and I first got a glimpse of this beautiful bouquet of yellow roses, which were Melissa's favorite. And then Mark was standing there, and we literally collapsed into each other's arms, and we cried for quite some time there in the doorway. It was such a profound moment. And it was also the beginning of a relationship that would continue on, that will continue on for forever. Mark's family is our family is his family. We are connected forever in that way. And one of the things I really appreciate, Mark, and I hope you know this from our family's heart, is how you have reached out to Ian, Melissa's son. Because he, at the age of 12, well, he was 11 when he lost his mom. That's a very, very difficult age for that. And of course, he was going through some tough times. And Mark reached out to him in such a profound way. In fact, they've done things together. They've gone out on outings together. And Ian always will say to me, like when Ian is over at my house, he'll say, "Can Mark come over?" And I'm like, "So what am I?" I mean, I'm like, all right, okay, go give him a call. And so he absolutely adores Mark. And about a year ago, it's not been quite a year ago, that Mark reached out to Ian with a beautiful letter that he wrote to Ian. And I'd love it if you would share that letter.
So it was close to Christmas, and I wanted to do something for Ian, and I knew that there was no gift that I could provide that would help him get through this Christmas he was about to go through without his mother for the first time. So I decided I'd write him a letter. I'd like to share it with you. It's a short message to the son of my angel hero, my organ donor. I know this will be the most difficult Christmas for you and your family to celebrate. I know you miss your mom, Melissa Cranston-Thorne, so much. I can't explain the pain I feel inside my heart knowing that what your family has lost. And I can't explain how I can miss a person as if I had known them forever, even though your mom and I have never met. Perhaps it's because I got to know her through your family and your close friends, a loving, caring, giving person that cared about everyone around her. I have a picture of you two together in my home, and much like the other pictures I've seen of the two of you together, it's easy to see that she loves you like crazy. And if you think for 1 minute she is not with you every day, think again. Some of those odd things that happen around you, think about it. You're so lucky because moms like yours are really cool. I found this picture on my cell phone of you and I, you the young handsome fellow and me the extremely sexy bald guy. And I realized that you and I and a few other people, we share a very special bond, and there's no others out there like us on the planet. We have received a precious gift from your beautiful mom, a gift that we can celebrate every day, the gift of life. Your mom is so incredibly special, and I will never forget her. Merry Christmas, Ian. I'm always thinking about you.
Thank you so much for that. I still remember when you read that to Ian, and it was a very moving and profound moment for him and for all of us. And so thank you for being a gift to him. And for allowing us actually to tell our combined stories together. That's really important to us.
So I really appreciate the time that you guys have spent with us together today. This means so much to me because it's really important to me to not only express to all of you, but to Melissa's family, how important that gift is to me. And I appreciate it so much. And all of us together, we can reach out and we can help people just like me. There are people out there just like me waiting to get up on this stage and tell their story. All they need is the opportunity. And we can do that together. So I want to share a thought with you. The butterfly effect. Have you heard of it? It's a scientific theory that says one small occurrence, no matter how small, could have a larger effect somewhere else across the planet. And Cheryl and I are on the wings of that butterfly. And we hope everyone in this room will join us on the wings of that butterfly and have an impact through Donate Life throughout the Northwest. Thank you.
I love that. I love that because butterflies, very important sign to me. Melissa sends me butterflies quite often, and she loved them, and that's a very profound thought. And I just, a lot of people who know me know that I'm kind of famous for saying this: everybody has a story. We don't all know each other's individual stories, but every individual story has its own passion. It's inspiring, it's wondrous, it's miraculous. How much more powerful does a story become when it's combined together with other stories? Mark has an amazing story, as you've heard today. I never get tired of hearing how he overcame and how my daughter was able to give him life. I never get tired of hearing that blessing. That's his individual story, and it's amazing and powerful. My daughter has an individual story, and it's amazing and wonderful. But our story together is double powerful. And that's the way I feel about everybody here today, that we have a very powerful story to tell as a community at Donate Life Northwest. Joining Donate Life and the family that we have here and doing our part to support education, which is actually a natural fit for me because I'm an educator, and supporting all of the outreach programs that you've heard about today, these are some of the most meaningful ways that Mark and I can help and spread the word. We can honor our angel hero, Melissa, but we can also honor all of the other angel heroes that are represented here. So would you please join us in doing your part as volunteers, as financial supporters, to bring hope to those that are waiting, and to carry on the legacies of all of our heroes, like Melissa. I love you, Boog. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Wow, that was pretty incredible. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Thank you so much to Mark and Cheryl and everyone so much for being here today. Okay, so now we have to channel that gratitude, of course. And so, captains, please open up your packets and hand out the forms at your table. Make sure everyone gets a form and an envelope. Now, as the forms are passed around, let's celebrate the success of our Donate Life programs, but also remember that 30 Americans won't make it through today because there aren't enough heroes like Melissa. 25% of adults don't register, and families often can't face that decision in the midst of tragic loss. You also heard Leslie talk about the widespread misunderstanding of living donation. As part of the Donate Life Northwest family here today, you are the key to changing that. With nearly 3,000 local children and adults facing desperate waits, all of us healthy enough to be here today have a lot to be grateful for. Today, you can help bring hope to those who wait by getting the curriculum into every high school, helping every new driver register just like Melissa did, providing extensive training to every willing volunteer like Mark and Cheryl, reaching every community with culturally and linguistically appropriate facts and inspiration, giving everyone the facts about the kidney crisis and living donation, and helping erase the wait for everyone who needs organ, eye, and tissue donation. Now, this is incredibly special thanks to a matching challenge from a generous liver recipient and her family. Get this, you can double those numbers if you make a commitment of $1,000 or more. So think about that. Also on that form, you're going to see a box. If you aren't already a trained volunteer, you can check the box to join Mark and Cheryl and hundreds of other ambassadors. Now, of course, you see the place to fill out your name, your address, your email, your phone. And also have a look at the ongoing support options that are marked in gray there. Remember, a generous family will match your contributions for all the plans marked in gray. And I know it sounds like a lot to me, too, $1,000. But you can spread this out just a few bucks a day. So I did the math. My grande at Starbucks costs $4. If you do that 5 days a week, that adds up to about $1,000 a year. So think about investing a little bit. Maybe you can do $83.33 a month. That's $1,000 in a year. So make that a 5-year commitment, and that's worth $10,000 with the match. And I get this too, a few dollars a day is too much for you. How about pocket change? Just 50 cents a day, that's $200 a year. Commit to 5 years and your entire $1,000 commitment is matched today. You can also do your own math for a monthly, quarterly, or annual plan, whatever works for you, or below that, feel free to avoid the math and just make a single contribution. Smaller gifts do add up, and we appreciate everything. And don't forget, if you've got an employer that matches, don't forget to check that section under the one-time options there. Then, of course, you can choose your payment options, long-term commitments. You can use your credit or debit card for painless automatic deductions. And if you can't make your first payment today, we can always invoice you too. So just check that invoice me box. You don't need to rush this. You can take your time. Maybe think about how much you invest in cable to watch Coin 6, huh? I hope. If you don't, you should. Wow, thank you again so much for being here. I want to give a special thanks to Barb Thompson from Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank. And also, of course, Pacific Northwest Transplant Bank, Leslie Brock, and the amazing Donate Life Northwest staff. We're also grateful to all of you table captains doing your work right now and volunteers who helped with this event, and all of the Donate Life Northwest volunteers. A huge thanks to our wonderful keynote speakers, both of them, Mark Williams and Cheryl Flanders, for expanding our Donate Life family in so many ways. And I know our hearts are full of gratitude to Melissa Cranston-Thorne and all donors who share the gift of sight, health, and life. Finally, thank all of you for doing your part with Donate Life Northwest in our community. Enjoy the rest of your day, and remember, you're all lifesavers. Thank you.